Welcome to another Bible in a Year overview video. This is for September 16th through the 30th. I'll be going through the books that are listed below in the description, or if you don't have the Bible in a Year Bible, that's the reading list. But Isaiah will be it'll finish out the last couple chapters of Isaiah in this section, and really these last handful of chapters are very even in the 60s of Isaiah, they're very hope-filled, and this idea of a messianic age, the age of the Anointed One, the age of the Christ. I think, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, the word Christ means Anointed One, and so they didn't know his first name was going to be Jesus, but it has this hope of this restoration and the coming of the messianic age, the age of the Anointed One that God promises is going to send. And then we jump into Jeremiah, who's the next major prophet. Jeremiah, the first, starts off just with his vocation, famous line where God says, when you were in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. And then it jumps into really the woes of Jeremiah's Israel's unfaithfulness. The first section is very big on, and how God has been faithful and Israel has been unfaithful. And this is the message that Jeremiah has to send to the people. In chapter 7, he'll go into the temple and kind of say, this temple is going to get destroyed. You can't just say the temple of the Lord is going to save us, the temple of the Lord. No, you gotta live it. And they aren't happy. Okay, actually, that's Jesus, when he announces the destruction of the temple in the Gospels, he's using the same language as Jeremiah in chapter 7 of Jeremiah. Now Jeremiah, he is a priest. He's of the Levitical priests in Ananoth. Actually, it was one of the priests earlier in the scriptures. I think it was during David's time, where he got banished essentially to this priestly family. A part of them got banished to Ananoth. And so Jeremiah's comes out of that. But it's really from 609 BC until 587, which is the destruction of the temple. Well, there's kind of Josiah, who then dies in battle in 605, and then things just go downhill. Babylon comes in, and they capture Jerusalem in 597, and it's really a lot of it has to do with that kind of time right before the falling of Babylon, the loss of Jerusalem, and then between the capture and then the destruction. There's 10 years about there where they're under Babylonian rule, and the Israelites are kind of like, well, maybe we should push back and start a rebellion against. And Jeremiah, God's message through Jeremiah is, no, just this is God's will that you be underneath the Babylonians, all right? And with all that, so it's Jeremiah. It's very much a lament. Much of the first 30 chapters are kind of God's people's unfaithful. Jeremiah is lamenting, why did you send me, God? It's kind of this difficulty of bringing a message that is falling on deaf ears. And then chapters 30 to 32, which 30 to 33 actually, but 32 will cut off for this kind of section of these 2 weeks. And those chapters 30 to 33 are actually really of hope, kind of central of hope. It speaks of a new covenant that God's going to establish with his people. So that's some background on Jeremiah. We'll continue with wisdom. I'll get through most of the center of wisdom, and it really moves from wisdom as the first handful of chapters, 8 chapters or so, as kind of this wisdom is this kind of perfect force, and then it moves into more wisdom as in creation. It's pointing to in the beginning it was the Word was God, Word was with God, Word was God. Word is the second person, Jesus, eternally. So this idea of it goes through like creation, and then the Exodus account it'll pick up in, and how wisdom was at work in the Exodus. What's it getting at? It's the Word. wisdom. So the word for wisdom is Sophia in Greek, and the word for word is logos. And actually, the Greek terms, they're very. We think of the word kind of, okay, it's a word, it signifies some idea, but it's much richer in Greek. Reason, kind of rationale. And what is wisdom? Well, it has to do with the reasons and kind of ordering things. So those two, wisdom, this is wisdom and word, kind of, they kind of are in tandem. And so it's kind of recounting the Exodus story almost, if this is how the second person of the Trinity was at work. Now, that's what we view of knowing that there's a Trinity, and this is the Old Testament. This is the beauty of being able to read the Old Testament in light of the New. You're like, whoa, this is kind of revealing how the second person was at work in a particular way during creation in the Exodus. Moving on to the New Testament, we'll finish out Corinthians, the rest of Corinthians. In Corinthians, it may seem a little disjointed at points because actually it's a couple of letters, it seems. Most scholars think it's a couple of letters to Corinthians combined. Let's see here. And then Galatians. So the Galatians are, what am I getting at here? Yes, Galatia is actually central Turkey. And the main kind of St. Paul, he's writing to them, and the main thing he's fighting against is the Judaizers, those who are saying, well, you still need to follow the rites of the Old Covenant, the Mosaic Covenant, and you got to get circumcised, you got all these ritual things you got to still do. And Paul's argument is, no, Christ has brought all those to fulfillment, has brought the covenants of the Old to fulfillment. Everything is that you don't need to go back. Baptism is the new circumcision. So he's kind of pushing back of those who think, well, you got to still do the Old Testament. No, Christ fulfills it, and so those are shadows of the reality, which Christ is. The covenant comes into reality. Everything else was pointing forward, and so that's really what Paul hammers into them again and again. He also mentions the fruits of the Spirit in chapter 5, and in chapter 6, kind of the armor of God. Some well-known passages there. Even chapter 3, I think it begins out, "You stupid Galatians." In terms of translation you have, it's always great when that's the reading on, I guess, like on a Wednesday or Thursday that shows up every other year in the weekday readings. "You stupid Galatians," you foolish Galatians, you senseless. So those are the readings for these 2 weeks. Please do send your questions to me after September 30th, and I'll get back to them as best I can answer any questions that come up. God bless.